Terri, you did a set visit for Ghost in the Shell.
I did.
And you posted some stuff this week.
I did.
And you're going to tell us about some of these things.
I am.
You are.
So I got to go to New Zealand, which was crazy. If you remember me posting a lot of stories from New Zealand about how I made a 13-hour detour to go to Hobbiton, this was the set visit behind that. It was really interesting. You know, set visits can go a lot of different ways. This one involved us spending most of our time in a conference room lined with concept art, but on this set that, you know, or studio sound stages that had some sets that seemed to be from later in the movies. And because they were shooting stuff that was more towards the climax, we saw Scarlett Johansson shooting a fight scene and her stunt double shooting a fight scene, but didn't really get any context for it. What we did get is, you know, a walkthrough of the costumes and an understanding of some of the interesting things doing to get the aesthetics right for the movie. In fact, the person who was planning like the LED lights that are basically what they use to light the sets and project it, picked all the colors that they used specifically from the anime film.
Oh, nice.
So to make sure like it literally will match up with the aesthetic of the movie, they used the entire color palette, which
that's really
seems
cool.
Great. And also, if you look at the imagery they've released and the sizzle
it does have
reels,
that kind of
it totally has that vibe. But because of that, it's very early, and I'm loath to say, you know, they nailed it or they didn't. What I will say is, you know, as someone, I actually haven't seen the anime series or read the manga, but I have seen the 1995 anime film, that's sort of the most famous bit of Ghost in the Shell, multiple times, and it holds up, and it's fantastic, and it was so influential. And it seems like they're really drawing a lot of the movie from that. But they also are, I wrote a whole piece about how the anime, both film and TV series and manga, influenced the or what the movie drew from those. And it seems like they're drawing stuff from Standalone Complex, which was, you know, another series, or actually I think that was a later movie. Now I'm mixing myself
going
up.
down
Like
the
I
nerd
said,
rabbit hole.
I know.
People.
Now, like I said, but drawing stuff from Standalone Complex. The villain Kuze, who we don't know too much about, that's Michael Pitt's character, was in Standalone Complex second gig. So they are drawing bits and pieces from everywhere, and it seems like on paper they have everything right. Yes, there's the whitewashing conversation. No, they were not willing to speak about the whitewashing conversation on set. They did not want to have that be a part of the discussion. I do think it's an important discussion to have, but also, you know, a lot of our readers are big fans, and if the question is, are they getting Ghost in the Shell right? It seems like they understand that, you know, it's not about having a big fight scene, like end of the world type situation at the end of the movie. It's more about the existential questions, and the big theme of this movie is identity. So so it seems like they have the right understanding of it, but we won't know if it's a good movie until the edit happens. Like it's something that could totally come together or just fall apart in the finished product.
Well, speaking of existentialism, let's talk about Scarlett Johansson's nude suit.
Oh, so
Come on.
if you've
this is let's face it. Apparently, it's doing quite well on the site.
Well, so the article about it. If you've seen Ghost in the Shell, one of the most film, one of the most iconic scenes is Major, Scarlett Johansson's character, falling seemingly naked, like down a skyscraper and assassinating these government officials. And
do
then
that at every Comic-Con
And then
party.
after she does it, and they're like, "Oh my God, what happened?" She sort of just dissolves away and becomes invisible, and it's her thermo-optic suit that it's hard to create because Major is fully naked, like she has nipples. I talked a lot about Major's nipples on set, and everyone thought I was crazy, but I was like, this is a valid question, guys. But so what ended up happening is the costume designer to create...
Never on this show have the words Major's nipples ever been uttered.
But it was really interesting finding out what the film did to recreate that, right? And their big problem was they wanted to, again, stay true to the idea of it, but not have it just be Scarlett Johansson naked. They wanted to make it clear that it is a suit, even if it is flesh-colored.
This is
that
going to
simulates
probably
nudity.
be a PG-13 movie, right?
I think so. They weren't settled on what the rating will be, I think, until they have they submit a cut of the movie to the MPAA. We won't know what it is. But Avi Arad, the producer, was saying, we weren't going for an R movie. And even if it was an R movie, we weren't going to be seeing Scarlett Johansson naked. Yeah, no. So Weta is, from Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, they're the ones who are doing the special effects and prosthetics and everything.
So it's going to look good, is what you're saying.
I mean, I hope
they do
so.
Good work.
And they did say, they went a lot more because they had a tighter turnaround for The Hobbit. They didn't have as much time to do prosthetics and make things real. And so for that movie, they used a lot of VFX. And this one, I think there's more of a mix between the two. And for Major's outfit, it's not digital. They basically created a silicone suit that that Scarlett Johansson will wear that was like made of a mold of her body.
The image of that is that I think from the trailer, isn't she? She's in profile, and she looks like she's almost in some sort of case or something. Like,
oh no, that's the window, but she's wearing like a jacket over it. That's not what this is.
Fashionable. Just
her bomber jacket. That's like her iconic look here. Right. So it's there again, a whole story up on the website about it. But it is really interesting. We got to see sort of an early model of what it might look like, and it's one of the coolest elements of the movie. Like how it's used, both that assassination scene and then there's this chase and fight scene that ends up like her in the thermoptic suit, invisible, fighting this guy.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's cool. Really neat. So it sounds like they're going to do some of those scenes here too.
All right. Well, I don't really know much about Ghost in the Shell, but I look forward to learning. Yes, I will. My fear is that it's going to be like another Aeon Flux movie, But.
Yeah, and I think that's.
Has there ever been a good
I'm not sure.
It looks it's got to be at least $100 million. I mean, it looks.
It's again, like I said, it's hard to judge because we saw a lot of concept art. We saw a lot of in the process prosthetics and what the intention was, but we didn't see any finished product. I think until we see the full trailer, we won't really know how it looks, and definitely until we see the movie, it could be something that just falls apart in the finished product. But it seemed like they're really trying. It's taken a decade for this movie to get made, and I should say too, we met a lot of the supporting cast, and it is an incredibly diverse supporting cast, even if it's not a Japanese woman playing Major. But it seems like they're working really hard to get everything that made Ghost in the Shell so iconic and significant and influential in the big screen version. But, I just watched that 1995 movie, and it's so not a Hollywood blockbuster because of the way it ends, which isn't in a fight scene. It's like what comes after the fight scene that's very existential and philosophical. And can they get away with doing that in the movie? And if they do, and if they get it right, then that's great. If they try and end with a big fight scene, then they're missing the point. So.
Well, you always have Blade Runner and Watchmen to kind of like, how do we adapt a dense property into something for a large market? And
well, if you go the Blade Runner route, just watch read a third of the source material and wing it for the rest of it.
Yeah, wing the last act.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing all that you learned about Ghost in the Shell.
Yeah, if you have more questions, hit me up on Twitter too, anything that we didn't touch upon.
At Terri Schwartz.
At Terri _Schwartz.
Awesome.